Okay, hello, welcome back to another stream. Today we have a double header. So, of course, right now we're going to talk about the Palace Vivienne Westwood collab. And then in a later stream tonight, we're going to be talking about Claire White Keller at Uniqlo. But to jump straight into it, when we talk about Palace and Vivienne Westwood in the past stream, I kind of speculated what we can come to expect. And I will actually say that the outcome of the Palace Vivienne Westwood collab was a lot better than I expected. I thought it was going to be them just mixing the Vivienne Westwood orb and the Palace Triferg and just like smashing those things together and turning that into a print for t-shirts, a print for hoodies and stuff, which they did do. But it definitely had more range than I thought. I thought the collab would be very merchy, but there was kind of a bit of range in the collaboration that I really did like. So yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Way better than I was expecting. Of course, Palace is a streetwear brand. It's not like it's not Yohji Yamamoto. It's not Comme des Garçons. I wasn't expecting like them to create new silhouettes or whatever. But for what it is, I was quite happy with how the collaboration turned out in a sense. But I'm gonna put the collaboration on the screen and essentially go through like each of the pieces. Because I think it's quite interesting actually. Just to have a look. The next man is saying, am I gonna cop? So I will tell you actually, there's one piece that I do like that I might actually cop, but we'll have to see about that. But I might. Who knows? Let me rearrange that. I prefer it like that. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, basically with Palace, there's quite a few products to go through. We're going to go through it one by one. If there's references, we're going to talk about it. Francisco is saying, I want some of the ear flap beanies. Oh, we're going to get to that. Those are kind of cool, actually. So this first piece, which is a Vivienne Westwood flight jacket with tartan. Of course, tartan makes a lot of sense in the context of Vivienne Westwood. Vivienne Westwood is known for using tartan over the years. So that's very on brand. Palace has always been known for having really funny descriptions on their website. So them even saying in the description, this jacket is the best jacket we've ever made. I think that's a bit of a stretch. Palace has made so many jackets over the years. But it's cool that they think that they really like the jacket. So they have this in different colorways. You've got the orange lining. So I want this khaki colorway. Now, the reason why I'll probably, if I buy anything from this collab, it will be this jacket is because I've kind of like when I buy clothing, I think of my wardrobe as a whole. And I don't have any khaki jackets. And I've been looking for a khaki kind of bomber type of flight jacket sort of thing. And this actually fits perfectly into that. So I was like, when I saw it, I was like, oh, wow, I've actually been looking for something like this for a really, really long time. And because I'm so fussy with the clothing I buy, I actually almost never buy clothes. I might buy clothes like once a year or something. So this jacket I really, really like. I'm a fan of that. So I'm definitely probably going to get this one. If I do bite the bullet. It depends on the price because I haven't really seen any price list. And you guys in the chat, let me know if you've seen any of the prices, but I have no idea how expensive these things could potentially end up being. But yeah, I really, really like this jacket. But yeah, the green colorway, perfect for me. Of course, then they have the trouser versions. They've got all the straps. It kind of reminds me of a watered down Vivienne Westwood bondage piece. Of course, they don't have the straps everywhere, probably because they think that it won't be as good commercial if they do too much with the bondage. So they've kind of just had one strap and left it that way. Let's see what the description says. Don't care how many bills they cost. God spend the queen. Is that a sign that it's going to be stupidly expensive? Is that what it is? Tosin is saying it's going to be Vivienne Westwood prices. Oh, if it's Vivienne Westwood prices, then the jacket, yo, the jacket might have to be a pass. If it's Vivienne Westwood prices, oof, like that's crazy. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. Yeah. You have to think about that. These were the Gore-Tex pieces that I thought were kind of interesting, with all the prints. Um, Pinnacle Gore for when your life gets a kind of bore. It's really cool to see a Gore-Tex piece with all the different prints. I think that this jacket here is a bit of a mess, but I do like the more monotonous ones, like this black one here. I think this Vivienne Westwood branding on the hood is a bit much because you already have a Palace logo with the Vivienne Westwood orb here on the chest. I don't know why they then had to put the Vivienne Westwood text and orb on the hood. I think if they remove that from the hood, fantastic. Just leave the logo or the branding somewhere, but to have it all over the place, I think is a bit much, at least for me. But I do like the overall design of that jacket as a Gore-Tex jacket is really cool. Yeah, definitely more of a fan of the black one. Of course, they have like the matching Gore-Tex skirt in the same colorways. They also have the matching Gore-Tex trousers in the same colorways. Um, but yeah, black a lot better to me. These were the pieces that when I posted about it on Twitter, a lot of people seem to really like the denim pieces. I don't really know how I feel about the denim pieces. Once again, my worry before I actually saw the lookbook and before this collection came out was that all of it would be kind of reduced to just, how do I say it in a nice way? Kind of reduced to just the orb and a triferg slapped all over the place. And that's kind of what they've done here. They've kind of made a monogram of sorts out of the Palace X Vivienne Westwood orb logo that they're trying to push. So I think this is a bit much. Not the biggest fan of like just using that as a print. Same here. I would have liked for them to kind of play with the silhouette more. In some of the other pieces, like with the vest, they cut out the vest like a corset, which makes a lot of sense because Vivienne Westwood as a brand is very much known for corsets. I don't know why they couldn't do that with the denim, especially for the womenswear pieces, but instead we just get this like overused, overdone, too much in your face orb logo all over the place with Palace written under it. I think, yeah, these pieces, definitely not the biggest fan. And the description says, weirdish, extravagant shorts, the wonders of orbs, darling. whoever whoever writes these descriptions for Palace literally must be having a blast when they write these things. It's really, really funny. Um, yeah, Palace is mainly focused on menswear, but it's really unisex because streetwear is unisex, it's co-ed. It's not really gendered. So, and a lot of the like vest stuff and the corsets, probably more women are going to buy it than men, to be honest. Yeah, this I don't know what that's about. And the description says the thing is shorter than your super weird fiance. Interesting from Palace. Interesting thought process. This also is kind of like a mess. It's kind of once again this kind of like bleach thing with the orb and Palace, but it kind of looks like it's decaying in a way. Um I don't know. It looks like a mess. It looks like the kind of thing that you find in a flea market, but not in a good way. It defo looks like that. Like it's kind of interesting though, and creative that the way it's knitted, the print and the colors kind of look like it's been aged for a really long time, and the color is fading away slowly. Um, but yeah, not the biggest fan of that at all. Boa says, I just thought about something. Vivienne Westwood orb jewelry is super popular in streetwear now, right? Yeah, it's super popular. I think almost everyone in fashion has, like the streetwear kids, they all have at least one Vivienne Westwood necklace, especially the necklaces. So the orb is like huge in fashion right now. Really, 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 really bad in fashion right now. It's streetwear is unisex for me as an excuse to never do pattern cutting right. Do you know what it is? I think, well, the patterns that they cut for like a lot of these streetwear brands are really, really, really extremely standardized. And a lot of them are probably patterns that skew more towards menswear. But when I say streetwear is unisex, I mean from a societal standpoint. So as a man, societally, if you wear a skirt, there might be some people that have something to say. But as a woman, if you wear what's associated with streetwear, like varsity jackets or trousers or whatever, people in society won't have as much to say. So that's what I mean when I say that streetwear is inherently co-ed or unisex. So I don't think they consider too much if they make menswear or womenswear. This was kind of interesting. There were a lot of, like teddy bear things and odes to teddy bears. That, of course, is a very, very direct reference to the history of Vivienne Westwood. They're using the same teddy bears that were printed on very, very old Vivienne Westwood collections. I'll actually show you guys on the screen. Sorry, can't even speak. Where the references come from. So here right now on the screen, this is Vivienne Westwood's official website, where you can actually see where some of the references from this collection, this Palace collaboration come from. So just to read it quickly, it says retracing the teddy steps, talking about why teddies have become like an icon in the history of Vivienne Westwood and why teddy bears as an iconography of the brand is very on brand for Vivienne Westwood. So it says, a motif now synonymous with the house, the playful teddy has become part of the furniture since appearing in Vivienne's earliest collections, including Pagan 1, Spring Summer 1988, as referenced by Alexander Fury, author of Vivienne Westwood Catwalk. Various teddies can be spotted throughout the decades, printed on everything from crop t-shirts and oversized designer tote bags to chunky key rings and stretch leggings. Ranging in the shades of candy colors, each iteration looks slightly different from the last, but their universal charm never fades. Vivienne's love for the teddy extends beyond her collections. She once took part in an auction for which she designed an eco-warrior Build-A-Bear that wore a Climate Revolution t-shirt and helmet to raise money for South African charity Operation Bobby Bear. The coveted Vivienne Westwood teddy returns this holiday season with a new collection of exclusive jewelry, covering all bases, from the brass clutch pin to the little pave bracelet. A piece from this collectible offering would make a choice gift. In both silver and gold metals, each design has been carefully considered. Featuring hinged, movable joints, they are embellished with Swarovski crystals and deep blue sapphire crystal eyes. Vivienne Westwood branding is intricately engraved onto their backs, with a gold-plated orb sitting in the center of their stomach and delicate gold trimming surrounding their ears, mouth, and paws. Now, why I read that out is I kind of, when I posted the collab on Twitter, a lot of people were saying it's so random that there's bears everywhere. And I was like, what? Like, bears are so key to the history of the brand of Vivienne Westwood. So that's why I said, yeah, when I do my stream, I'm going to talk about the history a bit and actually say that, like, since the beginning, she's been printing bears on garments, and they've had jewelry collections of bears and bear bags and all sorts of things. So yeah, it was quite crazy that people actually didn't know that bears are literally synonymous with the brand. I thought that was quite surprising, actually. But bringing it back to the collection, so that's exactly where these references are, coming from. Of course, corsets are very, very important in the history of Vivienne Westwood. So I think it was only right that they had a corset in the collection. For people that don't know, I think from 1987, corsets became a very signature part of Vivienne Westwood's brand. And I remember at the time, the narrative around why Vivienne Westwood was creating corsets was kind of, transforming this idea of like a repressive garment that, forced women to be suffocated in a garment and not able to breathe, and kind of something that was used as a provocative tool and was kind of pushed or done or used for the male gaze, is kind of now being changed into something that can be worn as underwear or outerwear. So it's not being given the same use case as it was before. Now, obviously there's a that was the narrative coming from the brand. Now whether, you know, corsets were, you know, restrictive or repressive or not is a conversation for another day, and I think it's definitely not for me to have that conversation. um but that's kind of where the history of Vivienne Westwood corset started, and that's why she started doing a lot of corsets. And Vivienne Westwood corsets are very, very cool because, like I said, she uses them as kind of like a piece of outerwear. When you look at the earlier collections, they'll be wearing like blazers and jumpers, and then they'll wear the corset over. And I really love the way they used to style it. These corsets here, I'm not too sure because I don't like the dog print. And when I was reading about the collaboration, I actually found out that Tanju, who is like, for people that don't know who Lev Tanju is, he's one of the co-founders of Palace. But this is actually a photograph of his dog called Stuart that's been printed on the corsets. But yeah, I'd rather the corsets were kind of more plain and they didn't have the dog print. Let's continue moving on. So yeah, these are the parts that I really don't like. So this is what I thought the whole collaboration would be. Like, I thought everything was going to be the Palace Triferg with the Vivienne Westwood orb kind of merged together and nothing else. But luckily we got something else. But yeah, this stuff here, this is what I thought the whole collaboration was going to be. So I'm glad that's not the case. But yeah, these pieces here, not my cup of tea at all. That is just straight up merch. Um, Here you kind of have a more interesting use of the Triferg. Still not the biggest fan. Orbs all over the place. A dog kind of leaking out of the Triferg. Vivienne Westwood written under the Triferg. Way too much. Way too much stuff happening here. Way too much happening here. Kid says punk and skateboard culture has been going hand in hand for ages. That's definitely true. I can definitely agree with that. Like, skateboard kids are definitely seen as misfits. Um, and people also see the way they used to see punks as criminals is the same way they see skateboarders as criminals, you know, grinding on rails that are closed to the public and all the breaking into buildings to skate. Yeah, there's a lot of similarities there. Even like subcultures, the fact that they're very big subcultures and all those sort of things. So yeah. Christian says that's them playing it safe for sales. Yeah, for sure. It's just not the most interesting thing to me. Oh, Maya says she has so many bears. The vintage ones go for almost as much as skirts on secondhand sites. Facts. But yeah, it seemed like people didn't really know too much about how bears are important in the Vivienne Westwood you know, just the history of the brand in general. This I won't go on it too much because of what the iconography is. um, might get demonetized for that one. Here, once again, you have another play with the Trifagonal orb. Not the biggest fan. This is where we get into the merchy part. Once again, we have the direct reference lifted from an early Vivienne Westwood collection, like I showed you guys on the screen in different colorways with the orb. This was kind of interesting. This was cool. Why this is actually really interesting to me is that, you know, this is a white vest that's cut in the shape of a corset, which is once again referencing the fact that Vivienne Westwood used to make a lot of corsets and still does. I just would have liked if they worked a lot more in terms of like the actual silhouette, making it more exaggerated or making the bottom part actually tieable. Maybe there was like a lace bit at the back or just something more interesting. But I get that, you know, there has to be some like commercial sense to it, and most people would only want to wear something that is easy to wear. I get it. But I just don't like the placement of the orb and the palace thing right bang in the middle. I would have preferred if that logo wasn't there at all. It was just plain. Um, and maybe they could have done something more with the silhouette to make it more clearly Vivienne Westwood. But yeah, the placement of that logo, the orb with the palace, just isn't for me. And like, see what I mean? Like, the shape of the back is boring. They didn't even cut the back into a corset shape too, which I thought would also be really cool. It's only the front. So once again, just could have been done a lot better. Um, but you know, it's cool. It's cool. Definitely one of the more interesting pieces in the collection. Bowling bag with the orb and palace. I actually really like it. Not in this like bleached thing that they have going on, but the denim bit, I kind of like that, even though I don't like this print as like how they've made it a monogram. I don't like it. But if they had it, if they had a plain, if they had like more options of like plain denim bags, like plain denim with this hardware with the orb and palace under, I think they would have been onto an absolute winner. Um, but yeah, I think with these bags, there's slightly a bit too much happening here, and it just looks like a bit of a crazy clash of things going on. Um, so yeah. Finn says the all placement is actually a reference to the 90s. Yeah, it's a reference, but I don't actually like it, is my point. Not the biggest fan at all. Finn says, my friend did some of the graphics for this collection. He was bored, but glad he did it. Damn, that's really telling that he was bored doing the graphics. Damn. I mean, the graphics aren't crazy. They're not like insane graphics. So yeah. Gian says this corset vest would be better if they go an area stitch to mimic the boning. Oh my god, that would be so cool. But it just ends up being like a, yeah, because it's just a plain like I just feel like they could have done so much more there. But then I also need to remember I can't judge Palace like I judge like Vivienne Westwood if it was just the Vivienne Westwood collection, because it's still a collaboration. And I need to understand that like a lot of streetwear is very easy to wear. It's like really wearable. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah. Cuddly bear in the description. With the palace and or belly buttons. This is also one of my favorite pieces from the collab, the Palace Beret. Palace. But the weirdest thing about this beret, which I thought was so interesting, is this beret is Gore-Tex, which is weird because normally things that are Gore-Tex are things that will actually protect you from the rain. I don't understand why it would be useful to make a beret Gore-Tex. Like if it rains, a beret doesn't cover your face like a cap or like a bucket hat or anything. So the water's gonna go straight into your face anyway. So what's the point of loading a beret with Gore-Tex? Like you're not going to actually need it. So I thought it was kind of like interesting that they decided to put Gore-Tex in the beret. I thought that was quite cool. Um, yeah, and they've even embroidered Gore-Tex in the back to let you know that there's Gore-Tex. But I thought it's definitely one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. To have Gore-Tex. Like, why would a beret have Gore-Tex? It's so odd. So odd. Al says Al says that Palace beret probably gonna be mad small. They don't be making headwear for the mandem. Oh my god, that's funny. Okay, someone says a wool beret will be ruined in the rain pretty much. But I guess like most berets are that fabric anyway. So most berets are already that fabric. If it's gonna rain and that's how you're dressed, you just have to accept it. I guess the only positive to adding Gore-Tex to a beret is the fact that the beret itself won't get soaked, but you definitely won't be protected from the rain at all. You will definitely get soaked by the rain. Um, this is really cool. The Gore-Tex shooting cap with the color print, the same print that similar print we've seen on the jacket. Um, really cool, and how it can like fold up. That's cool. I mean, Palace has been making these kind of hats forever. Um, it's cool if you want to kind of like show that you're down with the kids. You can have the one that has not just the palace but the orb also. That's cool. That's a cool piece. Maya says, "Is that a headband?" Yeah, it is. It is. We'll get to it. The trucker hat, I actually kind of like it. It's kind of tacky, but in a tasteful way. I don't know. It's kind of weird. And I don't like the black and white version because I think it needs to be more tacky if they're trying to lean into this sort of, like Y2K trucker hat vibe. Um, I like it to be weird colors. The ear flap beanie and tartan, I like that. Um, then they have these like bedazzled pink and white versions, which I like less. I only really like the tartan version, to be honest. Aya is a pink girly. It's pretty silly though, but yeah, that's the only reason I think you'd even waterproof a beret. Oh my god, that's funny. Okay, Finn's talking about the horn beanie. Yeah, we're gonna get to that as a reference to early 2000s stainless steel horns. Vivienne loved. Um, yeah, we're gonna get to that in a bit. Do you want to hop on, Finn? Because I feel like if your friend worked on it, I'll put this stream and I'll put the link it to the stream in the chat if you want to add your thoughts. Oh yeah, so that's even the next piece. Yeah, so the horn beanie. It's really cool. It's also like horn beanies are starting to become very commonplace in fashion. Not necessarily like a horn, but obviously Charles Jeffrey Loverboy has the cat ear beanies, and then you had Matthew Williams at Givenchy when he was doing the horn hats and the horn beanies. Um, so that kind of as a thing, I think it's so like commonplace in fashion right now. So it makes sense. Not just for the reference to Vivienne Westwood herself, but also looking at the commercial landscape of fashion right now, I think it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, these beanies, I'm not the biggest fan. I actually think these beanies would be cooler if they didn't put this all palace embroidery in the middle. They should have just left it as a print. This thing here just kind of looks out of place. The thing in the middle makes it look odd. The Palace Vivienne Westwood logo, merged logo. And then the Westwood headband. If you want to do the serious like 90s streetwear thing and wear headband as like a fashion thing, or you could play tennis or basketball or whatever you do, go to the gym in your Palace Vivienne Westwood headband. That's a look also if you're planning on doing that. You've even got Vivienne Westwood knickers. I wonder why this print they wanted it to be such a strong basis, only because there's so many better prints, especially if you look at like the history of Vivienne Westwood, the different tartans they could have made the basis of the collection. I just don't think it was like the best choice. Um, so yeah, I don't know. It's just a bit weird. Yeah, Carty did wear the hat with ears. That's true. That's true. Wearing Vivi to tennis is aristocratic punk. Oh my god. We're referencing Sean McQueen right now. Aristocratic punk. I love how you guys are tapped in. You guys listen during the streams. Hello, Finn.
Hiya.
How are you?
I'm alright. I used to work at Vivienne Westwood, so I thought I would definitely join.
Oh, that would be lovely. I didn't actually know you used to work at Westwood. Also, I can hear you slightly, so you might be a bit far from your mic or something like that.
Oh, okay. Is it better now?
Oh, it's way better now. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, cool. Um, yeah, I worked at Westwood from when I was 17 until I was 18, and then I worked again from 19 to 20.
Mm.
So I actually worked at World's End from when I was 17 as a Saturday boy.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. But what I was going to say was there's loads of controversy internally at Westwood about this collection.
Oh, why is that?
So obviously, I have a favoritism towards World's End, and I'll be open with that. But a lot of the references that are in this Palace collection do reference a lot of World's End garments, or even what
Yep.
used to be World's End exclusives, and they're not allowed to sell it. So, yeah,
Oh, Vivienne Westwood's not allowed to sell it.
only the Conduit store. So, yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah, one store in each territory, and then the Palace store's allowed to do it as well. But yeah, I really like this collection. I mean, I don't love the logo mania, but then at the same time, Westwood literally made up that name, logo
Yeah.
mania.
Yeah, I like the collab. I obviously remember making a video on Instagram. I was saying I think people are just like hating on it a bit too much. It's definitely a lot better than what I expected. I expected everything to look like this like Palace hoodie with the trifag and the orb just like
Yeah.
together. And I
Well,
really do
go
like
on.
the accessories, like the belt and stuff. It's so like bedazzled Y2K sort of vibes. But I do like it though.
I think it's a really so. From what my knowledge is, that at Westwood, there's actually limitations of what they're allowed to reference these days.
When you say at Westwood, you mean the brand itself?
Yes.
Right.
So there's a very clear now distinction between when Westwood died, so pre-Westwood and post-Westwood.
Yeah.
In when she died, there was in her will, there was actually a clause that was put in by her son Joe that they couldn't reference pre-1990. Really,
Jesus.
like explicitly.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense because Vivienne Westwood actually doesn't want to be associated with a lot of her old work. Like she's talked about that many times before. And
But then you
I
think
don't.
about like the Keith Haring collection, the Witches, and things like that. There's so much
Yeah.
iconic work.
Yeah. So that makes sense why there'll be a lot of like internal friction because they're probably thinking we can't even like reference some stuff that like is
But
being used in the collab, which is weird because legally, how does that work? Because it's still Vivienne Westwood though.
well, yeah, but so there's two parts. Obviously, they're still referencing the old stuff. You know, you can see it in stuff like um, the the bondage bomber and things like that. You know, that sort of tropes that they can't get away because they referenced it a
Yep.
lot. And actually, the way it's worked is because when Vivienne was alive, she was still the majority owner of the company.
Mm-hmm.
So she had she was the, what do they call it? Shareholder with the largest significance of
Yep.
power or whatever. And then when she died, she sold that. That went to her husband,
Mm-hmm.
Andreas. And in the stipulation was that when she no longer had that majority shareholder, they couldn't reference past a certain point, and that licensing would go to Joe.
Ah.
Yeah, because obviously he did a
Okay.
bit of a Helmet Lang, and he burnt all of his punk
Yeah.
collections. And
Yeah.
sorry, I'm this is like a specialist subject, Westwood.
Oh no. Like everyone talks about when he burnt his collect. People were pissed off about that, like really mad.
Oh yeah,
Um
collectors are
because
mad
like
as well.
yeah, because people are like that clothing has so much historical significance. Why would you just destroy it?
Mm-hmm.
Like that sort of stuff should be in like museums and stuff is what people were saying at the time. But I think it depends how you look at it because it's very on brand to be like a punk and do that. But
Yeah,
like it just depends how you see it.
I definitely. And I wanted to reference you were looking at. So the horn beanie has that same bleach effect that you were referencing, right?
Yeah.
So what that is it's a layering of two different prints that Andreas did for the menswear under Westwood. So Westwood Man. It's a cheetah print that's dripping.
How recently? Because I don't look at
2008.
recent Westwood. Okay,
Um,
that's not that
so
recent then.
No, but like my favorite period of Westwood, ironically, which is like controversial, is actually 2004 to 2014.
Mm.
It's a very specific. It's when her activism became very, very vocal, and like it changed completely, and the style became a bit more focusing on like organic materials and using dyes that reflect, that you can only get from nature and
That's
things
so
like that.
interesting because I like the early shit. Like I like the maybe because I love Arms Milamista and a lot of like early Vivienne Westwood collections. She's like
Very
out here
similar.
making like pirate boots, and you have like all these shirts with like the wide sleeves and like the frilly collars and stuff. That's like my bag.
Mm.
So that's why I don't really look at modern Vivienne Westwood. I don't find it too interesting.
So yeah, like post. So when they got rid of Gold Label, which I think was 2000, I think it was 2014. Um, and then Andreas took over completely. So Westwood stopped designing. It became, in my opinion, very, very boring. But that was more of a
Mm,
business move rather than a creative move.
yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I mean, it's all very political internally, but in terms of the clothes, like that's my favorite period, and there's a lot of references to that in here, especially the menswear, which I don't always love later within Westwood menswear. But actually, what if you look back on the early 2000s to the late 2010, sorry, of Westwood menswear, those belts are actually in it, but just Westwood, and
Yeah, yeah,
she she was doing these sort of things, or the team was anyway, that look quite Y2K and very like Paris Hilton-y and that on-trend thing now. She was doing it, but I think the difference is her models have always been quite Versace models
yeah.
in from the 2000 onwards. They're very muscular and the stereotypical man.
Yeah, I mean, like with the belt, there's nothing super unique. I just like the way it looks, but like Vivienne Westwood, even I think now they sell like an orb belt. Like you can walk
Definitely.
into the store and buy it now. So like they make those. So all Palace have done is kind of like just make their Palace orb logo and then do exactly what Westwood does in terms of like that same belt design.
Yeah.
Um and I know Westwood they do it in different colors too. Like I've seen like pink ones, I've seen
Yeah.
black ones, I've seen red ones, and sometimes the hardware is like silver, sometimes the hardware is like gold. Um,
And
so yeah, that's
that,
yeah.
oh, go on. Go on, go on.
No, go on, go on, go on.
That orb necklace, sorry, I really wanted to mention it, is the only thing keeping Westwood alive right now.
Yeah.
And that's not like a dig, they're very open about it. Um, they sell so many of them in Asia that they couldn't keep up with the production, which is like insane
Damn.
considering their majority. Well, their manufacturer is a part owner of Within Westwood, Marco, I think his name is. And they they own the factories and they couldn't keep up with it. They couldn't even get the materials in time.
Jeez.
Yeah. And then Bella Hadid wore a pearl necklace and it sold out for 6 months.
Really?
Yeah.
Sometimes I forget that, like, because obviously I know that these people like Bella Hadid and stuff are like Kendall Jenner, they're really influential, but it's hard for me to understand how, because I think in our fashion bubble,
Yeah, we
like
buy anything they
individual
wear.
style is so championed that no one's gonna buy something just because like Bella Hadid wore it or some shit like that. But I don't realize that generally if these people wear something, people want to buy it and it like sells out and stuff.
Yeah. So, Leo's made a really good point, which I could talk about this forever. Sorry, I will stop talking about it. But the Japanese streetwear fans will eat this club up. Literally, what Vivienne Westwood did so well is she went. I don't know when she sold her licensing to Japan. She did a license. She went on a trip to Japan, and that's where you see stuff like her rocking horseshoes, which she'd referenced in
Yeah.
Japan and things. And then they sold so well. They still sell out these like to this day. They actually wore them in the lookbook, but I have
Yeah, I was gonna
three
say that.
pairs.
I was gonna say they weren't a look, but I do see a lot of people in Japan wearing those though. But I think it fits into like
That low
There's a lot
neckline
of like
thing.
Japanese, yeah, like aesthetics that it fits perfectly into. So it makes a lot of sense to me.
See, I forget. Bob's just put, "Nah, Bella Hadid is so popular, babes." I forget that she has influence.
It's I know she's popular, but also I think also when you work in fashion, like I see Bella Hadid's face so much that I've become
Yeah,
like desensitized to it. Like I see her on all the magazine covers a lot. I see her in so many campaigns. It just becomes a face, and then you forget, oh yeah, this is actually like an extremely influential, extremely like A-list celebrity type person.
and I've got one more thing about jewelry, and then I'll talk about the prints, and then I'll let you go because otherwise I will keep talking about Westwood. Um,
Well, that's what we're here for. We're here to talk about Westwood, and there's not much to talk about because I've talked about everything basically. The only things left are the accessories, which I'm gonna scroll through on the screen, and obviously some more of like Tanju's dog,
I quite
portrait of
like that.
Stuart. I didn't like it on the corset, but I like it here
Yeah,
as like a Westwood scarf. I love it more here, but I didn't like it on the corset.
I mean, I
Um,
love the fact they used the Wallace Gallery, which was her favorite gallery in London,
yeah,
as the prints, which I think is really clever. And I like it on the sort of the jackets and stuff, which is Gore-Tex with like a furry
yeah,
outer, which I think is like that feels like a very good mash between commercial Westwood and Palace. I think the socks are great. They're very Westwood as well.
yeah. I like the socks. Even the print I don't like, the print that you said is merged. I like it
Mm.
on the socks though, because I'm thinking of like how I can imagine people are going to style it.
Yeah, I agree. And they're, if anything, that's what I'm going to buy in this collection is the pair of socks. Um, but the jewelry, everybody, I don't know if you've seen on TikTok, but they're like, is it supposed to be bent and stuff? Like the orbs are breaking and da 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 da.
Yeah,
Guys, this shit is so cheap that I don't know why you're shocked. But I guess the problem is Westwood has such a highest what's that word? What's the thing? Name recognition has such high name recognition
right.
that people assume the quality is going to be amazing.
But why do
Um,
people do that though? Because we know across the board that fashion quality isn't fantastic anymore. So why do people still have like
because I think we know that,
expectations that... Ah, okay.
yeah. But then when I first when I was 18, no, 19 to 20, when I worked at Westwood, I was working at the outlet and in Bicester Village, and the people would come in and go, "I need 4 necklaces. I don't care. They just have to have the orb on it." Right? But they would call it the planet. They didn't even know it was an orb.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
they just loved it.
That's
And bear
so
in mind, this
interesting.
was how old am I? This is nearly 8 years ago now. So it was, and we would sell out every week. By Sunday, they would be gone.
Yeah, it's
Um,
definitely been a thing. Like I remember people wearing these Westwood orb necklaces since I was in uni, which was ages ago. Like that was so long ago.
in it. So I think I don't know. Basically, we're just trying to say that I don't know why people complain about the quality because people know. I know it's shit, but I guess I work there.
And because this is a Palace collab, I can't imagine any of the fabrics will be fantastic. Um,
No, I love that teddy bear print though. I think it's so good.
yeah. And it's literally directly lifted
Yeah.
um from the pagan collection, like directly. What I find interesting, I was looking at the armpit area. The armpits have like an
Yeah,
interesting lining.
patches, right?
Yeah, I think that's really cool because they're
So
probably like teddy bear
it's
patches.
I think it's a reference to the squiggle t-shirts.
Right.
So I mean, it's in my closet, but in the squiggle t-shirts, the way that they're cut, they have to have these armpit um, slits in them. So then,
Yeah.
and then a gusset put in. Just because they're so lopsided and asymmetric. So I think it's like a commercialization of that to be a bit like if you know, you know, which I actually really like as an idea.
Yeah.
If
And I
it's a
think it's
skate,
just
kids are never gonna know.
it's a cool design cue. You said this cake. I wonder what someone was saying earlier, we were speculating. What do you think will be the price point generally of the collab? Do you think it's going to be Westwood prices?
I think it's going to be so Westwood used to be tiered, and I would consider this on. It's going to be on the lower tier, so I think everything's going to be below 500.
Okay.
That's kind of how we used to band products. Is like I was still there when there was Anglomania, and then they did this
Yeah.
reconciliation where they basically got rid of the Anglomania name and made it everything was under one label, which is Westwood.
Yeah.
Joe Heffen could be a reference to underarm gussets in the 17th. It totally is, and that's the thing with Westwood is she used to directly take references from paintings
Exactly.
and reconstruct it into her clothing. There's a really good video on YouTube. Actually, there used to be a webpage which was World's End's webpage, and it was run by not Joe but Ben Westwood, and they would talk through different phases of Westwood as a brand. And
Mm,
there's a video of Westwood. What's that word? Putting water on the models, live models, and then pinning the clothes to create the drapes and stuff, which is a direct reference from Greek gods and Greek statues, in terms of how Greek sculptors used to get the shape of garments. They used to wet their
yeah.
models, their live models. It's a really interesting watch.
Luke in the chat hating as usual.
Wait
Bob
till they do a
says
Galliano one.
it won't be below 500. It's Palace. That is true. Palace sometimes can be really expensive.
I
Like some of
forget
the
about
Palace
that.
collabs are like sometimes they're what was the collab they did a collab. One of my favorite collabs that they've done in semi-recent times is with Barber, but the prices were like I remember in my head thinking, oh, I'm gonna get that, and then I saw the prices and I was like, yeah, how about I don't?
I didn't see that.
What, the
I love a
Barber
bit of
Palace?
Barber.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really cool. And the
So,
campaign was really good too.
um, was it a good campaign?
Yeah, it was a really good campaign.
The last note I was going to make was that obviously when I was at Jordan Lucan and Luca used to work for Westwood, um, we had Andreas walk in January,
Yeah.
and his head of basically his PA, who's based out of Paris, is also the head of archive and VIP.
Hmm.
So for like 10 years, she's managed the archive, and she mentioned to keep your eyes out on the last quarter of this year for a collab. And I was like, oh, it's going to be a shoe thing. Da, 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 da. And she gave nothing away. And then my friend last week, 2 weeks ago, we met up for coffee, and he was like, oh, just so you know, a collab's coming out with Westwood and Palace, and I've
Yeah.
done two of the prints, and I was like, oh, which ones? And then when I saw them, I was like, oh, I know they're your ones, like straight away. Um, but he was like, they literally just asked us to merge things together. There was no thoughts behind it.
Really?
Yeah, when it, like you said, it's the merchy stuff was literally just a merch exercise.
Yeah, I mean it does look like much though. It's like there's no other way to describe it. Like how else would you describe it? Like stuff like this is just straight up merch. It's just like
Yeah.
let's just literally put the orb inside the trifag and turn it into your print.
So Bob said, that's what I'm saying. Gucci Palace was expensive. Totally agree. But in the context of fashion right now, Westwood isn't the most expensive fashion house. And that's why I think, especially because a lot of this is jersey and knit and stuff, I don't see it going above the 500. Maybe I'm being very conservative and it's going to be like 750 or something for the bomber jacket, but I do feel like it's going to be one of the lower collabs in terms of price
Mm,
because you can't compete with Gucci when it comes to price, and they can price what they want because they're Gucci.
yeah, because Gucci facts.
Was it Palace Moschino?
If there was, I definitely didn't see that. I can't remember a Palace Moschino collaboration personally.
If there was, I'm gonna go crazy.
Thoughts on the campaign? Feels a little reminiscent of Fruits Mag Harajuku street style pics. Yeah, I mean they do look that way. Even the way they are styled, even though it's just like places around London. Literally saw one in like Chinatown and stuff. Yeah.
I'm just looking at the Moschino Palace collab now, but it would have been Jeremy Scott era, and I fucking hated that era.
Oh, so they actually did do a collab. What does it look like?
Oh, it looks like old Moschino from the 90s. It's actually quite fun.
Oh, nice. I mean, Palace does do some really, really interesting collab, which is why I was so interested in this collab, because I think they genuinely like it's one of the few streetwear brands that to me still makes really interesting clothes. Even though, which I find really weird, a lot of people say that, oh my god, Palace is like dead because like Palace isn't hyped anymore. And I'm like, do you buy clothes because you like the way the clothes look, or do you buy clothes because the brand is hyped? Because why? How can a brand be dead or uncool just because it's not hyped anymore? Like, if you like the clothes, wear the clothes that you like. It's a really weird mentality I've seen online, but that's how the streetwear community is. It's kind of toxic like that.
Very. And actually, if you want a good video on YouTube, guys, that talks a bit about Palace, there's one I've been having a bit of Moschino deep dive as of recent, and there's like this Moschino 90s to early 2000s Moschino jeans collector based in London, and he talks about his collection, and he explicitly says that Palace is the only brand right now that he would buy for something that was on par with that era of streetwear,
Right.
because he was like, the prints are still quite, sometimes they talk about politics and sexual health, and they have real
100%.
themes that are relevant.
100%.
So I don't know, and I like about Moschino is that like it transcended race as well, which not a lot of brands can do very well.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is not about this, but sidetracks.
Is Palace better than Supreme? I mean, I can't answer that question, but I prefer Palace to Supreme only because Palace still has a vibe of like streetwear, whereas like Supreme just seems like a mass market veering on fast fashion brand with how many stores they have, how much they produce these days, how packed the stores are, all those kind of things. So me personally, and also Palace is like UK based also. So like
Yeah.
there's just I just like feel a closer attachment to it. So me personally, I prefer Palace to Supreme, but it's not like I'm sure some people won't agree with that.
See, the thing is as well, like as much as I prefer Palace because I think it's a better brand, um, but Supreme do these really left wing, out of nowhere print collabs with people like Lee Bowery and Nan Golding, which are like queer icons, and
Yeah.
nobody gets the reference. And I'm like, who in the design team came to this decision? Because it's genius, because I want
Yeah.
it, but not anybody else
Um,
does.
and that's how you know that the audience for Palace and Supreme are a bit different. Because I think if you reference Lee Bowery for Palace, I think people would get it.
That's so true, actually. Yeah, it's really true. And also, I think, especially because it's London coded,
Exactly. The
Supreme is
Supreme
phenomenal.
Yoji collab. I remember when that came out. Oh my god, I remember when that came out. The prices were insane though, but I literally remember when that came out. And timing of this campaign slash collab is perfect. I think a lot of the styling is perfectly adjacent to the broquette trend hitting the zeitgeist. I'm so like not onto what the trends are. Is that what the trend is now? What happened to like cottagecore and all that stuff? Like
This TikTok trends go in a day.
I thought we were just talking about cottagecore, which I guess kind of veers into the coquette thing ish. Um, yeah, what happened to the trends? I don't even. Wasn't it not too long ago we were talking about mob wives and shit?
Yeah, that's gone. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, just seeing people talk about, because I obviously veered with Moschino, and they're like, they're going for the Loewe customer. Yeah, the head of Loewe's design team went to Moschino. Guys, come on, keep up.
I think cottagecore is like a mega trend now, overseeing other trends. Yeah, I can see that. A straight college sophomore gamer guy is not gonna know who Lee Bowery is. No hate. Damn. Not the
Fashion
strays to the straight men.
fashion world is too obsessed with Bowery, says Luke.
Are they? I don't really
I don't
think
think
people
so.
talk about Lee Bowery too often, actually. I
I
don't
can
hear Lee Bowery's name come up that often.
I can think of examples, and the fact that I can pick examples from the last 20 years
Right.
kind of makes me think that it's not mentioned as much as maybe you think, you know?
Because in general conversations, I think in like Fashion Insider conversations, it's mentioned a lot. Just the other day, I was listening to a podcast, Styles Zeitgeist podcast, with Marcio Flaherty, who I'm a big fan of, by the way, really good journalist. And he was talking about how he came up in London and kind of like the club scene back then, and how like he met Lee Balbury and like how they like used to party and all this stuff. And like, but it just, or like when I was at CSM, people would always talk about Lee Bowery. I think in
Yeah,
certain circles, it seems like he's talked about a lot, but outside of that, not really.
that's the thing. It's like I mean, I remember when I discovered Lee Barry when I was really young, because I was like obsessed with Amanda Lepore and um oh God, like that club kid scene from New York and
Yeah.
whatnot. And then oh God, I'm just reading all of this, sorry. Um and like I think my styles actually, when I think back, it's a total commercialized rip of what Lee Barry was.
Right.
So I'm sorry, just like because that came up, I've just thought about it. I'm like, I definitely just copied what Lee Barry did.
Oh my god, now Luke has turned the hate to JW Anderson. Luke, I'm waiting for the day when you'll just be like happy about the designer we're talking about, or just be like, oh, I really like this like designer. I really like that design. Oh god. It's fine. You can be our resident hater in the chat. We don't mind.
I also think it's easier to hate than appreciate, guys. Come on. And I'm a hater.
Oh no. Not the professional haters. But it's interesting how they've styled the socks in the lookbook. That's definitely not how I would wear it, but it still looks. This looks like a Harajuku kind of like fit. The way
I
they've
think it,
styled it there.
it feels very Westwood as well.
Yeah.
Um, Especially if you look on like the Jurgen Teller commercials they've done recently. Last 15 years.
Shout out to Jurgen Teller.
Yeah. Some of the only photography I like by Jurgen Teller is the Westwood campaign.
Yeah, because a lot of Jurgen Teller, I don't know, it's just like it could have gotten my mate to shoot that with an iPhone, but you know, shout out to
Yeah.
you finessing brands out of hundreds of thousands of pounds to shoot iPhone pictures.
And they get away with it.
Of course.
It's called being
Luke, let's
white and
talk about
40.
Yoji then. I talk about Yoji from time to time. I even write about Yoji from time to time also.
You should read his Vogue, British Vogue Runway review of the Yoji show from last season.
There we go. I reviewed Yoji's show on Vogue Runway. I love Yoji. Not modern Yoji though. There's things about it that's a bit, but Yoji the designer, yes, big fan. Obviously, it's one of my favorite designers, and also one of the designers I wear the most.
I can't get into it, you know. It's one of the only brands I do not wear.
Really?
Yeah, I've got two pairs. I've got one pair of trousers actually, and
One of the big reasons why I wear a lot of Yoji is it works for my proportions, like really long legs, small torso kind of thing. It works.
so I do like Yoji because a lot of his trousers are flexi waist, and I fluctuate so much. But it's just something about it. I always think the price is fucking obscene.
Mm.
Says the person
The
that buys runway stuff.
I mean, Yoji mainline prices are insane, though. Like, let me not. That's not the one of the big reasons I wear it. Also, is because I don't pay retail. If I paid retail for Yoji, I probably wouldn't own any of it because I'm not spending like. I have these Yoji pants that retail for like 2K, and they're just
That's insane.
100% wool. Like, and I got them for like 800 or something, but like even 800 was still like on trousers.
Yeah. Luke loves Yoji.
Also, as Yoji shows make me so nostalgic to when I first fell in love with fashion. Yeah, I mean, one of the first designers I ever learnt about in fashion was Yoji. And that's why when I first started buying kind of like designer-ish, designer adjacent clothes, it was Y3.
I think a lot of people did that.
Yeah.
My first shoe was those fucking, what are those Y3 shoes that
What, the
everybody wore?
Kaza highs? Same,
Yeah,
same, same. Same. I love the Kaza highs.
I've still got them.
I still
Um,
don't have mine, but they re-released them, so I'm going to buy a pair just for the nostalgia very soon.
they weren't comfy though.
They weren't, and the apart from the comfort, because actually, no, I don't agree. I found it comfortable. My biggest issue with them was the grip. Like I felt
Right.
like I could fall at any second on the road. There was just no grip. I was like sliding everywhere, and once it rained, I was fucked.
Yeah, true. Um, oh fuck, my train of thought has gone. It was about Yoji. Can't remember. Doesn't matter.
Everyone's saying shout out Yoji.
He'll be dead soon. Don't worry, guys.
Damn, I love
Come
Yoji.
on.
Yoji's the goat.
Although you can get it on good sale at allotment. Not keep gatekeeping here.
Which piece are you talking about?
Like Yoji in general goes on sale quite
Yeah, yeah,
well.
that's where I get Yoji from.
I
That's why I
bought one
don't
of.
pay retail.
Well, yeah, I bought one of the big hats from them last season.
Oh yeah, Yoji does make a good hat.
My mum wants like
Even
On
sometimes when
Essence
he
as a really good
does,
one.
even sometimes when he does the new era stuff, which hit or miss,
Hmm.
but they do make some like those wool wide brim hats that Yoji does. I'd love those.
Yeah, and also what I love about I always think there's a real comparison between Ray and Yoji because obviously they dated for a while. Um, but the thing that they've done so well is their licensing is really clever.
Yeah,
Like Yoji's kept to his brand and he's done Y3 and New Balance, New Era, and one or two others. And then Ray has got her Converse and she had Speedos and things like that.
and Nike as
And
well.
Nike, yeah. That Speedo collaboration was wild.
But yeah, on that note, I think we're done talking about Palace Vivienne Westwood. But thank you everyone for tuning in. Today is a double header, so I'm hopping on another stream to talk about Claire White Keller at Uniqlo. Um, so I'll be back in 30 minutes. I'm not gone for good. But thank you very much for tuning in. Hopefully a lot of you can make it to the Uniqlo stream. And yeah, this was a lot of fun.
Have a good